If you can train yourself to be more on how many families can I help today, it'll actually drive you more as opposed to how much money I can make today. And if you really buy into that, you will naturally attract it because you're on a different level when you're communicating with them.
So I'm the first month now in business, I think, officially. So I locked 4.5 million already, and I'm about to make more money than I ever made in a month in my life. And I see a lot of mortgage professionals that once they start making this money, they get comfortable. I can see in other people how the hunger goes away. They're getting comfortable, you know what I mean? And I'm afraid not to get to that level that way, you know? I don't want to stop here. Yeah, I'm about to make, let's say 30, 40 or $45,000, wherever it could be. And this is the most amount of money I ever made in a month, but I don't want it to take away my hunger.
Okay. So number one is I respect that. Number two is I could tell that you feed off the energy of your surroundings. So if the top person in your team is funding, let's say 7 million, that's kind of the goal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The best piece of advice that I could tell you is, number one, you know how much is in your pipeline. You're not on that wavelength yet, meaning that I don't know how much I have in my pipeline because I don't care. You see what I mean? I don't know the dollar figure.
You close your eyes on that.
Correct. So the second that you become in tune to that, psychologically, you do the math real quick. So for example, how much do you get paid per deal?
125.
Yeah. So 4.5 million, you already know you got right about 50 grand.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Then that's exactly the moment when I felt the impact. Once I did that math, I felt like I stopped. In a way, my energy diminished.
So there's this concept, it's called out of sight, out of mind. And it's going to help you in two areas. Number one, you have to change your default view in your loan origination system. Crazy, right? Because your default view might have what's in your pipeline. And here's a side note, is just because it's in your pipeline, don't mean it's funded. So don't ever count that. Don't ever think you got 45. If anything, divide that by 4, and that's probably somewhere near what you really got, right? Because you got to expect fallout. You got to expect something to happen. Number two, okay, so number one, right, that's very important. You have to change your default view. Because if your default view is your pipeline, it reminds you. Now, you're still going to view it because you have to manage your locks. You have to manage your deals, right? But at the same time, if your default view reminds you every day of how much you have volume-wise, you got to remove that from your practice. Because it's not about that. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. Salespeople become more associated with the money aspect of it. And I know it sounds weird. If you can train yourself to be more on how many families can I help today, it'll actually drive you more as opposed to how much money I can make today. And if you really buy into that, you will naturally attract it because you're on a different level when you're communicating with them. Because when you're communicating with them, you're not really about closing the deal, right? You're actually about, hey, I want to help you. I know that seems so far-fetched, but that's something that I learned a long time ago that really changed my results, right? And then second is with the money that you're earning, you need to create more accounts. So you might have a generic account that you could plug in on an app and you know how much money you got, right? So you need to create other accounts where you don't have access to it on your phone. You literally have to log in and set up your deposit in a way where most of it goes to that account. Out of sight, out of mind. Right? And you're constantly reminded that you are not balling, even though you really are.